Welcome. It's still morning at NTV. I'm Andrew Chamagran. We're live from Kampala's Renner Conference Center. Good to have you this Saturday morning. Now, the national youth elections are beckoning, and the elections will see several young people compete to represent youth from different regions in Parliament. However, in light of what happened in the NRM primaries and what happened in 2015, what lessons do we draw to learn from that? Now, to speak to us about this, we have Angela Kasekende, who is aspiring to become the female National Youth Member of Parliament, and Patrick Mwesige, who wants to represent the western part of the country as a youth MP from the western side. However, before we get into this conversation, this issue of messing up with the tallings, with results and all that within the NRM, it's something that has come to light. For example, in Rwanda East, one Kenneth Jogo Bidyabadema felt cheated when the results on the DR forms were not corresponding with the percentage. Let's take a look at this, and this will kick off our conversation.
Against the declared results, where a lot of anomalies were witnessed, and I have come here to officially pray, which is my personal copy. For
we have received the petition for the level of and I'll consult from the Secretariat. Because by now I'm going to forward it, then we shall handle that thing in time with the guidance.
That was in Rwanda East, the side of Kabale, where Kenneth Jogo Bidyabadema felt cheated, and he petitioned. To start off this conversation, Angela, you're known to be vocal about all this. What do you make of all this going on? Tallings, not tallying with the percentages and all that?
I think at the end of the day, these elections have been quite rushed because of the pandemic. And with the preparations, it hasn't been well planned as it should be, because everything is a bit rushed, and then resources are quite limited. So the people who actually count the tallies and make the percentages need to be trained more on that. And I think they've been overwhelmed, you know, with the voting process and the rushing and making sure that the votes are out on time. So
wow.
Yes.
Well, that is Angela's take. Let me look at you. George, when you look at, rather Patrick, when you look at what became of the lining up mode of elections, when we had it during the LC1 election some years ago, I think like 2 years ago, we had issues with them. Then we just had the village youth representatives, the mess that was there. Then NRM came into the primaries, and it was a mess. You people are having your elections on 10th October. Are you scared to get to this day? Has this changed in one way, or you're doing business as an aspirant?
Wow, what an interesting question, Andrew. Yes. And first and foremost, thank you for hosting me. And good morning to all our viewers. So to start you off, well, I am very confident that I'm going to win the vote. What
makes you sure? You see, this confidence is what messed up somewhere.
No, what makes me sure is that the young people who have been campaigning within have bought my agenda.
Okay.
However, I am a bit skeptical of the whole process of the election.
What makes you skeptical? Is it after these primaries?
Yes. After the primaries, clearly, I don't want to speak as a politician, but rather as a leader. What has happened over what happened on Friday and Saturday, and what is still happening should raise our eyeballs.
Okay.
One, it's of course, well, actually, let me start by congratulating us as a party upon the election, but not a successful election. Just, well, upon the exercise.
Okay.
But there are many, we did not do better Not even best. I'm not going to use the word best at all. Actually, let me not even use the word better. We did not do good.
Do you believe there is intrigue within your party that is going to destabilize?
Not only in the NRM, by the way, across all the parties, right?
Angela, do you agree to that?
Well, Angela might agree or not, but that is the reality. But let me just quickly say this. Why has all this happened? You see, before we even start looking at what happened, we possibly might want to ask ourselves a question: why did it happen? I think there are very important steps that we've missed as a party. One, voter education was not carried out. And you see, the NRM among all parties is that it's lucky, or we are lucky, that we have got party structures and we have got structures at the ground, at the local level, right from, let me tell you, Andrew, if you go to your village right now,
Patrick, you're not answering my question.
And you ask for the LC1 chair.
How has these primaries changed your modality of engagement as we're heading to the October 10th?
That's what I was coming to, but I just wanted to kind of like give you some brief of history. But well, coming straight to your answer. Well, I feel a little bit scared because one is right now as we speak, we have not had very clear info from the NRM Electoral Commission on, for example, who's going to vote us as youth MPs during our primaries. The understanding is that, yes, it's true, we are voted by the youth delegates at the district and the sub-county municipality and all that. Yes, it's a college vote. But we are at the moment working within the old youth structures, which were created in 2015. When we were nominated about a month ago, we were nominated under those old structures. As we speak, we do not have all the full new structures. So we are praying. Our prayer is that we actually are voted by the old structures, because it's going to be worse to say you're voted by the new structures, which, for example, they're going to vote us on the 10th of October, right? The last segment of the new structures will be voted on the 5th or the 4th, around there, 4th or 5th. So you can imagine what it means for someone to traverse the whole country or an entire region in just 1 week to look for those new leaders. So that is what makes me scared.
Okay, now that he's just in the western region, he's scared, he's not so sure what is coming. You want to be the national female youth MP. How has this changed your modalities on traversing the country? Isn't it going to be a little bit more demanding than ever before?
It will be demanding. Well, the thing is, I'll have to just go with what we have at the electoral colleges, but I have an issue with the electoral colleges.
What is your issue with them?
So with the electoral colleges, there's only a selected few delegates that vote leaders. And at a national level, I believe that youth should actually vote, like the majority of the youth should vote for their leaders at a national country. Yeah, should vote for their leaders at a national level. So this limits participation of the youth around the country to vote their leaders. You know, they are isolated. So that's why I want to advocate for the universal vote. With the electoral college, it's easier to you know, manipulate a vote or take advantage of the voters. You know.
So what you're suggesting is that we should have more like a secret kind of voting for the youth MPs?
A secret, yeah, more of a secret ballot, and also youth, all the youth should be involved. I mean, we're a young country, so all of us should be involved. All of us should participate at, you know, voting for our leaders, so that there, you know, when someone is involved in participation, then they vote for the people that they want and the people that are willing to serve, and also put their interests first before money, of course.
Well, Angela, don't you think that's going to be a little bit cost implicating in the wave where we are, where we've just come from a very big stampede of the pandemic, and we've had a budget that was reviewed twice, and don't you think lining up behind would be far much more better? Or you have issues with it as well?
Well, in terms of protection of the voters too, because you get to see who's actually lining up instead of having a secret ballot, you know, have your vote and then vote for your leader without, you know, having to be scared of I've voted for this person, and maybe the opponent might not be as, you know, excited about that, which kind of leads into the violence that we've seen, you know, in the NRM primaries. So that protects the voters.
Do you trust the police to safeguard the entire election, especially the youthful election coming up next month?
I feel they
With
could
what
be.
you've seen so far?
They could be overwhelmed too, because they also have to follow the SOPs. There's a lot of things that they have to consider during the elections. And you know, with the excitement of elections, you know, a lot of youth get excited and they want to make sure that their candidates do go through. So yes, I feel that they could handle, but then it could also get a little bit out of hand, because you know, they have to think about following the SOPs and at the same time protect the people and execute and make sure that people, you know, follow the law. And yes.
Wow.
Andrew, just on the issue of lining up, if you could allow me to
Please.
to just say something about that. For me, I think lining up is actually a very perfect idea, especially for us, the young people and the newcomers in politics. Because previously with the ballot box, we saw wealthy, you know, and historical politicians, and very old also to say, you know, being in position to buy your agents, you know, bribe the electoral officer, do everything because of the ballot, because the ballot is more secret.
So are you alluding that there is indeed corruption and a lot of money in elections? That's right.
Yeah, of course.
Because you say there is buying of your agents, buying of the returning
yeah,
officer.
no, that is happening, Andrew. That is happening. You know, and me, by the way, I'm a very many young people know me as the disruptor, because I like speaking.
You love disrupting, yes. Carry on.
Yeah, I will not come here and tell you no, there is no exchange of money. What that is happening clearly. But just to emphasize the issue of lining up, and I would like to thank our president on that point about NRM primaries being musululu moja, lining up, because if you are, regardless of whether you have cash or not, and you're able to give cash or not, but as long as you're able to go and convince your people, they will come and line up behind you. So by the time people leave the polling station, they'll know that so and so has won, right?
Where's the safety of the voter?
Now that is another good question, the safety of the voter and all that. But in terms of transparency, in terms of proving to the other party that, look, I've actually got the support, lining up is a much better option, because there will not be that disparity between okay, the ballot boxes, you know, like you bribed the registrar and this kind of thing. Sometimes you find even your agents have been bought by your opponent simply because you're a weak candidate in terms of cash, but you're a good candidate in terms of ideas. And very many people now are interested in ideas, right? But now the challenge has been the issue of money. But lining up, and I really like on this, I want to credit our president.
Angela wanted to interject
there
a bit.
The lining up action is a much better option. We just need to look for how do we better it up.
Angela, please.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but lining up would work if it's a majority, like if it's a universal vote. But the fact that it's electoral colleges, you know, selected few, people know who the voters are exactly and where to find them. So that's why I talked about the security bit. It's better if they have a secret ballot rather than lining up, because, I mean, if you have many people, you won't exactly know where they're coming from because it's universal. But electoral colleges, you know, the youth chairperson, you know, the female affairs and the secretary of finance, you know them. So when you're lining up and you know each other, and my issue is the security of those people when they're lining up, and the voting process and how they can be easily manipulated. So
Angela is advocating that we should disembass the old formula of the college approach, and we just go, if we're to go into the transparent one, it should be a ballot box in one way or the other for the safety of the voter and to make sure that everything is done. However, Patrick has a question about that there is a lot of corruption around the side of the ballot staffing and all. So those are his worries. Now, going forward with what happened in the NRM, when you saw all this unveiling, the guns, people bleeding, the results being tampered with, like the one in Lubanda East, what came in your mind, Angela, when you're seeing all this on national television, on Twitter, and it was all running and join the race?
Of course, it's quite scary, and you know, you start to think, because I don't believe in violence when it comes to elections. I don't believe violence is what will lead you to winning an election. But unfortunately, because it's becoming common in our elections, the youth are actually getting used to living with it. And in order to stop that culture of violence, the leadership needs to find ways to you know, ways of non-violence competition, and this can be done through campaigns being well planned for, and being well funded for, and also having, you know, rules for a fair election. So
now, in the wake of COVID-19,
yes,
where you're on the ground, you're canvassing for votes, but at the same time, you have the SOPs of Ministry of Health, and the pandemic came, you know, uninvited.
yes.
So how do we bridge the gap of planning the elections? You seem to be more academia than what is really on the ground. So what modalities do we need on ground that are visible and they're feasible for them to stop the violence? Because it's very appalling.
With the voters, you need to also be relatable with them. The thing is, a lot of people are quite frustrated and disappointed with what's going on. There are people who are at home who've lost their jobs, and you know, that are quite disappointed with the leadership because they expected more from their leaders before that. So with my experience with the youth voters, they prefer someone who can relate with them, and someone who will speak for them, and someone who will also listen to, you know, the solutions to their problems, because I can't really do this alone as a National Female Youth MP. I have to encourage and also involve the youth leaders from around the country. So yeah, that's
the best way.
Yeah.
Patrick, how best can we limit on extremism among the youth, especially during times of election? Because I've been watching on TV here where people say, if that has failed, we are going for plan B. What is this plan B the youth are scaring us with? And they're talking with a lot of agitation. You can read the wrath in their eyes, in their tones, in their choice of words. You, as someone who is aspiring to be a youth leader in the Western region, where the biggest mess actually has happened, what are you planning on to make sure that these things possibly change?
You see, Andrew, it's unfortunate, but young people in this country have been misperceived. We are defined to be violent. We are defined to be thugs. We are defined to be all that sort of bad things. It's unfortunate that the little or the much good in us is rarely not brought out. Why? Because we've been betrayed. We've been disappointed.
By who?
We've been thrown out of development and other things by the existing governance. Yes, I come from the NRM party, but speaking about poverty in this country, for example, it's the youth who are unemployed, poor, marginalized, vulnerable, and all sorts of things, right? Look about representation in parliament. 78% of the youth are represented by 2% in parliament. The elder are going to have 9 MPs. The army has got almost 9 MPs, you know, but the youth have only got 5 MPs in parliament. You know, speaking about like this national female youth representation, that's tokenism. How do you expect a young woman to traverse the whole country looking for votes as if they're a president, and you don't even resource them, you don't do anything? You look at these regional MPs, youth MPs, Eastern, Western, Northern, Central.
I'm still looking for my answer.
And I'm coming to it. You see, the thing is that why this whole extremism, like you put it, is happening is because the young people have been yes, they have been taken for granted for a very long time. And what we need to solve that extremism, we need a platform to be listened to as young people. For example, the NRM Electoral Commission by now should start working on process of meeting us as contestants.
They're still having petitions running.
I know they are having petitions running, but you see, the commission is not run by one person, right? It's run by so many people who are paid well, who have enough security, who have what, and getting someone, or even the NRM has so many, a few respectable individuals who can sit with the youth contestants and a few youth leaders and agree on what should be the mode going forward. Like Angela was saying, planning. Now, like the whole idea of saying, like everyone should come up and vote as long as you're NRM, I had issues with it. What should have happened was, we have yellow books. Previously in 2015, we used our NRM yellow books. We registered people. There was enough time for people being registered. And you know, yes, of course, there was some bit of irregularities and that, but it wasn't as much as it was today. So solving the whole extremism issue is that we need to treat young people in this country as partners. as people who have a meaningful contribution to bring on the table than just looking at us as beneficiaries, as people you just need when it comes to
so
elections
Patrick,
and other things.
You think there is no inclusion at all
for young
levels
people
for
in
the
this
youth?
country?
There is no inclusion?
No.
Okay,
It's,
well, that would be one. Do you feel that there is the will from the youth to plug into? Because there are two angles to this. There could be no will on this side to include the youth, but if there is a will, are the youth in this nation ready to plug into that?
Yeah, oh my God, yes, 100%. Let me tell you, however much we've been described to be violent, to be thugs, to be all that kind of thing, you know, and seem to be talking about Plan B and all that, we, young people in this country have been pressed to the wall so much that if reached out to in a better way, sat on the table, we can listen in, we can plug in, we can bring our ideas, actually are very important and good ideas in a much better way. It's what we are lacking is the platform, because let me tell you,
there is lack of sensitization, especially among the youth, to know what their rights
it's
are
not
and
the
their
youth.
duties.
It's actually not the youth that are lacking the sensitization on their rights. It's the people in authority that represent it's the leaders, it's the decision makers that are lacking the art of meaningful youth participation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Well,
not
Angela,
the
let
youth
me
that are,
engage you on this. I'll come back to you, Patrick. Angela, let me engage you on this. The youth seem to be saying that we demand. I'm a youth, I'm demanding as well. But do we know our duty on the other side, the flip of the coin? Are we doing our duties vis-a-vis what you're doing today? Because we have a big clout that has come through the NRM, where education was free, secondary education was free, and somehow there is a mentality of self-importance. But are we doing our duty? Are we doing our due diligence duty?
I feel we are, because first of all, we need a platform, like he said, and in certain areas, people actually do come together and talk about their problems and try to solve them. But they need guidance. They need training on how to handle these issues. They might have the ideas, but they need guidance. And also with guidance, the leaders need to understand what the people, in the different areas or different districts need in order to solve the issues that they have. So at the end of the day, it depends on the kind of leadership that they have as young people, and people to guide them, people to give them hope, people to stand by them, people to listen to them, people to get the work done, not to, talk and not walk the talk, really.
Angela, you're talking this, and you're going to be a female, national female youth MP. That's such a big position.
Yes.
And part of his biggest words are lack of jobs, lack of inclusion. Now, you're not leaning on any political party. You're an independent. So for him, he's talking about the structures of NRM, the structures, and someone possibly from the DP or from the FDC and the NOP, they'll come up and say, look, within our structures, we'll be in position to do this and this. What are your approaches to this, or the strategies to make sure that you find jobs from all the regions to the youth, without any party structure, though?
Well, my agenda is focused on tackling the unemployment issue. I mean, the employment issue that we have, all of us as youth. So this, with this, I'll be, launching a program that will help with creation of 1 million jobs, which I won't be doing alone. So this will be, there will be the reworking of current and future programs, redirecting investment to where the youth should focus in terms of employment, and also creating partnerships with, the government, the private sector, educational institutions, because, I believe that in terms of employment, people should start young, and also vocational institutes that are already there. Now, in relation to not being part of a political party, in terms of requirements to lead and governance, political parties isn't actually the reason. It's the ideas and, coming up with solutions to solve the problems as a nation. I agree. At the end of the day, we shouldn't really put people in a nutshell that if they don't vote for someone in a political party, then they are denied the governance, their governance rights. At the end of the day, we're all going to be elected into parliament, and we're going to form the government, whereby we're going to be serving the people together. So politics is universal, and also the issue that I'm tackling, which is the issue of employment is universal. So it affects me as an independent, it affects Patrick, who is NRM, anyone NUP, and all the youth, you know, across the nation.
Okay. Patrick, let's talk about the electrical, rather the scientific campaigns. The youth are known for going around, talking to people, telling them, I'm coming. And you have your slogans when you're on the ground, back that side. How has this affected this youthful election this season?
The scientific campaign is not working for us at all. Because, one, yes, it's true, we know it's important, especially in regard to you know, prevention of COVID infection and all that. But what does that mean? It means using a TV platform like this. It means using a radio platform like this. There are so many young people out there that cannot even afford TV airtime, including myself. I mean, I'm here because of a friend that helped to assist me to be here. If it wasn't because of that friend, I would not be here. I cannot afford 2 minutes on a radio program. So what? Unless we resort to social media alone, but
So
there's
how do you bridge
OTT
those
as well.
gaps,
So
with
how we
regards to leadership
again? It
structures?
comes back to what I earlier talked about: understanding the art of meaningful youth participation and understanding the needs, actual needs of young. You see, Uganda is a youthful country. We've talked about that and again and again and again. And it has just become a song instead of
It's a
better
rhetoric.
understanding it, right? So for me, what that means is that when everything you're planning, be it COVID, be it a scientific election, be it what, think about this particular group of the population. Who are the youth? And see, how do they plug in? How do young people plug in into a scientific campaign? Let me tell you, I've been campaigning across the entire Western region, 38 districts, and I can guarantee you that I have met so many young people standing for LC3 councillor, LC5 councillor, town council mayors, municipality mayors, member of parliament, and other positions, so many of them. Now, parties like the NRM, the DP, the FDC, people, rather NUP and others need to know that there is so many young people who want to take up political positions. But now the question should be, are they prepared in terms of resources? Ideology and all that. And then after asking yourself those questions, then see, if I'm planning a scientific campaign, how do they plug in? Right? So for me, right now, the whole
Let's talk about
scientific
resources
thing,
before you leave that point. Do you feel that we should have more like, I'll give you an example. We'll take it to South Africa where the youth have everything theirs. That even when they're going to vie for any election, a municipality will back you up if you're going to, you know, to run for that. When it comes to resources, do you feel in one way or the other that it's your own fight from the grassroots until when you go through, that's when your parties say, okay, now come here, then they can start to embrace you and they give you all that?
yeah, that's how it has been, and it's very unfortunate because at the end of the day, it only works for those who are privileged and leaves out the cream and the people who have got the ideas. You know, I'm glad you brought out the South African example, like the ANC. The likes of this Malema came through the youth league of the ANC, right? And when they got the power, and I want to challenge people like Frank Tumwebazi, Minister Bahat, and others, you know, who have come through the same system and have gotten there, they've gotten powers, that they need to remember the young people, right? And fight for them to make sure that when the party sits, when SEC sits, for example, at State House or wherever, you know, that the youth are given priority in everything that the party is prioritizing. And this does not only go to the NRM. Let me tell you, the problems that are affecting the youth are both in the NRM, the FDC, even these independents. I've also ever been an independent, by the way. So
were you frustrated with the party structures?
Yes. I lost primaries.
That's the thing I want to go into. So,
And
when you lose the primaries, is it a must-do to become an independent?
No,
or is it the only way you can feel that, okay, I'm still going to fight for what I believe in, regardless of what is coming?
I think it depends on several circumstances and factors. For example, some people feel, now like I see so many independents coming up in the general elections after these primaries. Because clearly, like I know in, I won't mention names, but I know in some constituencies where someone was, they counted, he won. They counted again, he won. They counted again, he won. They counted again, fourth time he won. The fifth time a miracle happened and the results stand. You know? So why wouldn't such a person come as an independent?
That's a ruling
I would
factor.
not want to come as an independent because I know I'm going to come on the NRM flag because I'm going to win this election.
So you believe in the
Let me tell
NRM,
you.
is it because of the structures or because of your manifesto and your agenda as a youth?
Let me tell you, for a very long time, the young people have an opportunity today. Because listening to people like
Patrick,
me, listening
answer
to
my
people,
question.
yes.
Are you coming on the NRM ticket because it has its strong structures? Or are you coming because you have an agenda you believe the youth in the Western?
No, I'm coming because I have an agenda. Not only for the youth in the Western region, but the youth across. And my agenda is informed by who the young people in this country are. I've been giving an example because me, I live with the reality of who the young people in this country are.
Yes.
Talk about border riders, tax riders, our young people work in saloons, in Bilombe, Biamatafari, you know, Musenyu, young people at the landing sites, what. Let me tell you, majority of these politicians do not know those young people. And their voices are nowhere. Me, that has been my agenda.
Now, you know, the challenge I've seen with the youth is people who speak like Patrick, when they go to parliament, I don't know what happens. Is it complacency that gets them? They reach them, you can't talk anymore? No. Have you seen this in parliament? Is this one of the reasons why you're like, you know what, actually, it's high time
majority of our youth, I want to challenge you, Andrew, and any other journalist who's watching this show. I want you to go and find out who the previous youth MPs have been.
I know.
They have not been an ordinary young person like me and you.
Yes, I know.
For you might even be a son of a peasant like myself.
Yes.
They have not been sons and daughters of peasants. They do not know the reality of who a young person in Uganda is. And let me tell you, it's not by mistake that tomorrow when they go to parliament, they forget. Let me tell you, if there's any son and daughter of a peasant watching me right now, this is our opportunity.
As the youth.
Yes, as the youth, to also have people who have gone through
from the ground.
Exactly, from the ground, who understand the hustle. Of
Patrick,
being,
Angela, when Patrick speaks of all this, it brings a question then about leadership colleges. You see, when Patrick and I go through a very tough upbringing and we see all the dark and the grim in our society, when we grow up, we say, I want to change that. However, it comes off from the level of, I'm frustrated with this. It's high time I speak about this. Do you think as a nation we need leadership colleges that can structure and nurture the national ideology and sovereign of the country where we're heading as a nation, irregardless of the party? Because the one we had, that was the one of Chankwan's. It's now an NRM kind of, you know, retreat place. But do you think as a nation we need leadership colleges, and what will become of those leadership colleges?
I agree. We should have leadership colleges. I have experienced, you know, going through leadership programs myself. And also I did, you know, leadership in university. So if it wasn't for that, then I wouldn't know, you know, what being a servant leader or a thought leader, an effective leader in my nation is all about, you know, putting all your pride down and serving the people and listening to them. There's certain things that need to be trained. You know, in terms of communication, how do you communicate to your people? How do you communicate to other, you know, stakeholders? That's important. And then also, how do you, you know, treat the people who might not have an education, you know, the same as you? How do you relate to them? So even though people have not gone through education, they should be given those leadership programs, they should be given those opportunities, so that it gives them hope that, you know what, I can actually do something and lead, you know, my constituency or my village, and not, you know, just sit back and say, you know what, I don't exactly have a future because I don't think I can do this.
What brought that question? It comes to a clip that was on social media a few days ago where we saw the MP of Lubaga, Katol Bwama, saying,
let me speak.
A leader of this proportion on national television, and it's covered by media, and is leading a constituency full of youths.
Let me just quickly say this, Andrew. It's unfortunate that in this country, young people are lacking models. And you know, we have great facilities.
Models, but you mean role models?
Yeah, role
yes.
models. Okay. Thank you very much. Like for example, in our party and in many other parties, we're lacking inspiration. People to inspire us.
Right there.
You know, yes.
Right there. Do you believe, Patrick, that this election, the effect of Robert Kyagulanyi to ignite the youth to take up every position, to pick forms from every level, at every sub-county or parish level, it has worked for this nation?
Well, I mean, you cannot downplay that huge and strong force.
You get that with a sigh. Are you in disbelief?
No, I'm just like, I love speaking with energy. That's me, and that's why many people call me a disruptor. The thing is,
So Bobby Wine has spilled the youth to go into this.
He has, definitely, he has. He inspires a couple of young people. But now, let me speak to my party. Let me speak to my party. Do not draw me down.
These are facts you can't throw away.
I want to challenge the party leadership, the NRM party leadership, that we really need role models. And we need platforms that can mentor and motivate our NRM youth leaders. Speak about like the Chankwanzi Leadership Institute. You know, what has such an institution of government done to like mentor youth leaders? You know, because tomorrow, okay, not even tomorrow, today, we are now here today, we are aspiring to take on the leadership of this guy. These things of tomorrow are not going to work anymore. And like, young people should not be lied to that they should wait for tomorrow. Like, we know when we were in school, they used to tell us about education being a key. Now that we got degrees and masters and what, that the locks were changed. And so we come with the key, the key no longer works. So these things of leaders of tomorrow does not work. We're actually leaders of today. We've already started taking over the spaces. I have so many friends of mine who just won the previous NRM primaries and all that. But what is very important is that as parties, we must put in place structures, you know, and also as a country, we must put in place structures to build the leadership potential and capacity of our young people. We must create youth leadership institutes. I've had the pleasure of participating in various leadership institutes, including the one for Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, and many others in across the world in different countries. But why should I go outside in the US
to pick a model of ANC?
To learn to learn about, you know, youth leadership and what? Why not here? I can guarantee you that.
Do you think in one way, if you travel around the world and you go to, maybe you go to Yali and you study all that and you go to NC and you come back here, with all that knowledge, you come back here and you find people who totally don't understand what you do.
Of course. And let me tell you, and them not understanding should not be by mistake, or we should not blame them. Why? Because how would they understand when there are not such platforms and approaches to get them into lead? And let me tell you, recently when I've been doing my campaigns, for me it's been a pleasure and an opportunity, not only to campaign, but to educate and inspire and motivate young people. And that's why most of them have lined up behind me. You get it? Because you're using the approach of a leadership approach as opposed to a political approach. Because they are used to a political approach. They are used to politicians coming them and using them and what. Now for you go using a leadership approach and inspiring them and challenging them to look at things differently. And you see, the NRM needs to start looking for such young people like us.
Angela says her biggest goal and her biggest motivating drive is to create 1 million jobs. I will really commend you on that when we get those jobs. When we come to you, what is one of these particular issues you've looked at and you say, this, I'm done, I'm sick, I'm tired of it, I need it to shift?
Of course, it's unemployment. And for me, I'm not going to promise that 1 million jobs. But what I can promise the young people is that when I go to that parliament, together with my fellow other youth MPs and other constituency MPs, I want to see how we can advise Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Local Government and others to create what we call district industrial youth skilling centers, or at least regional industrial youth skilling centers, where our young people, including those who have dropped out of school, who have not had the capacity to finish senior 6, university and what, can go and learn a simple skill. For example, hairdressing, bakery, you know, repairing, you know, electrical gadgets, phones, what, different things, yes. And then, you see, we have this money that is being given out called Emioga. We also have the Youth Livelihood Fund, the Venture Capital Fund and others. Now, you get that money being given to these young people that have gone through those industrial skilling centers because they have mastered the skill. And when they get that money, let me also say this on TV, me, I'm against young people returning youth livelihood money.
Why?
They should because how long does a business take to mature? You give me money for 1 year, surely. I've started my kapigare business. How many times does a goat, for example, give birth in a year?
Why are you sweeping under the carpet the fact that some youths, yes, much as they need this money, they don't have financial discipline?
No,
they don't have business models they are actually following. They don't have a strategic
It's not
business
that they
canvas.
don't have financial discipline, right? But the design of the program has not prioritized some of those things. To, for example, first train them on business development, business running, savings, record keeping, all those things. And so you just give me 12 million
they want
anyhow,
to read
and
be in
let
all
me
those
tell you, by the
workshops.
before you even talk about financial discipline, and this is very important, your assumption is that the young person is getting the 12 million. My friend, that is not true. Out of the 12 million that is approved in books, they end up getting 8 because the CDO is taking Kintu Kidogo. The chairman
Are
is
you
taking...
reporting that as a youth?
No, I'm saying that these are things I've been getting from the field.
Oh, okay.
And then when it comes to payment, you want them to pay all the 12 million.
Angela wants to interject there.
Yes. I disagree on the point of actually handing youth money, because you do realize that youth, we also have responsibilities. You know, there is a lot of people starving, so they think about food, their rent, their bills, and then before you know it, they don't have enough money to actually, you know, help with their businesses. It's interesting, actually, we have the way we're going to tackle the employment issue is quite similar. However, I do prefer if we focus on the vocational institutes that are already there, instead of creating more, you know, industrial centers. Now, in terms of industrial centers, that's where, you know, you can have the private sector invest in those vocational institutes where there's a practical link, and you have the industry trainers that train the people in the vocational institutes, you know, of the skills, no matter what skill that they've had or education background that they've had. And then, you know, they're guaranteed some kind of employment, which is mass employment. Yes, yes. So instead of handing out the money, to invest in the programs themselves, whereby youth are actually there. They are learning, you know, there's the soft skills of it, which is communications, financial management, business development, like he said. It's also helping, you know, young entrepreneurs to learn how to reinvest in their businesses, to learn how to communicate to their clients, because a lot of people don't know these skills. And then also, you know, the young, you know, girl that has, you know, that thinks her future is gone, it's shattered, you know, probably because of early pregnancies, still has a chance to actually do something with her life through this vocational skilling that gets her, you know, some kind of employment in the industrial sector.
Well, thank you so much. That is Angela Kasekende. She's vying for the female youth MP nationwide. And of course, Patrick Mwesige vying for the youth MP Western Region. I wish you luck, both of you. I will report as and when. If you win, if you lose, we'll report that story. But thank you so much. Those who have been online following this conversation, we want to thank you. We'll take a break, but NTV, Morning at NTV continues. And thank you so much. The hashtag is Morning at NTV. Good morning.